My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I appreciate you being with me. Okay, here we are Thursday, and don't forget, I won't have a video on Friday, and we've got, of course, Thanksgiving coming up, in which I won't have videos either the day before or the day of Thanksgiving, so just keep that in mind. But we're coming up on the fact that beginning in December, and of course, it'll be interrupted by the holidays somewhat. But beginning in December, on Fridays, I will begin my examination, my refutation of the brand new book by my friend Steve Gregg, Why Not Full Preterism. Many of you have contacted me asking, are you going to do any, are you going to respond to Steve Gregg? Well, yes. And by the way, Lord willing, nothing happens. Okay. I'm not sure it's going to happen before the first of the year at this point, but we're in the process. I have finished all of my writing on a very large book. It's over 450 pages long, entitled Resurrection Feast Fulfilled. In that book, I will be responding extensively to Steve Gregg's book. So you need to be looking for that. I'll keep you posted. And oh, by the way, thank you so much for the great response to my brand new book entitled Temple to Telos. It's only out on Kindle as I'm producing this film, okay? But really appreciate the great response to it. It's cheap, it's inexpensive. So go to Amazon. You can go to my website and see the announcement of it, but you can go to Amazon and just look up Temple to Telos, and you can order the you can order the Kindle version. I have inventory ordered for the paperback version. Those copies are due by the end of November 2022. So as soon as I receive that inventory, then I'll be announcing it, okay? And by the way, I want to make this observation and this promise, if you please. For all of those of you who support our ministry on a monthly basis of $50 or more, okay, you will receive a free copy of this brand new book, okay? Now, some of you just simply tell me, I want to buy the book. I don't mind supporting you monthly, so I want to go ahead and buy the book. Well, if that's your desire, that's fine. But once again, if you are a regular monthly supporter of Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, of Preterist Research Institute, you're going to get a free copy of this brand new book, Temple to Telos. Now, if you have given us one-time contributions that, are beneficial, and all of them are, believe you me. But if you've given us contributions, one-time contributions on a fairly regular basis of over $50, if you've tried to help us along, then you're going to get a free copy. It's just a very small token of our appreciation to those of you who help us to get the word out about God's wonderful faithfulness in keeping his word. Okay? So, that's my promise to you. That will be my gift to you as well. Now then, what I've been doing is breaking down Revelation chapter 19 within our discussion of the war of the last days. The war that would be the great day of God's wrath and vindication of the martyrs, as foretold by Isaiah chapters 2 through 4. I've connected the dots. I'm not going to go back over all that territory, but we have looked how Isaiah chapter 2 through 4 serves as the foundational Old Testament prophecy for the promise of the great day of God's wrath in vindication of the martyrs, Revelation 6, 9 through 17. It is the great day of God's wrath, the battle of Armageddon, the gathering of the kings of the earth to the war, And it is the gathering of the kings of the earth to battle for the war, Revelation 19 and 19. And you may have a version that doesn't say the war. But guess what? In the Greek, it is the war. So I've been spending some time setting the context of Revelation chapter 19. Revelation 19 is the coming of the Lord for what? For salvation. That's the second coming of Christ of Hebrews chapter 9. Oh, by the way, I didn't point out, oversight on my part, the coming of the Lord to bring salvation of Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28. The writer of Hebrews says, and now in a very, very little while, the Greek is hosan, hosan, mikron. And now in a very, very little while, the one who is coming will come and will not delay. Oh, but wait. Futurist commentators tell us, 2,000 years. That's not a delay. Well, that's ridiculous. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. A 2,000 year delay from the time in which the New Testament writers, in which Jesus himself said he was coming back in that generation. There would be no delay. They were to have their lamps burning, their loins girt up, because they did not know the day or the hour. And we're supposed to believe 2,000 years later, he still hasn't come. Even though he was speaking to living, breathing human beings when he said, you will see the Son of Man coming. So, I want to look closer at Revelation chapter 19 to set the context a little bit more. Revelation 19, the coming of the Lord to bring salvation. That's the second coming of Christ, which was coming in a very, very little while. And in Revelation, Jesus said, behold, I come quickly. My reward is with me. Well, what was his reward? To reward every man according to his works. That's to bring salvation. And he said, behold, I come quickly. He didn't say, I'm going to wait around for 2,000 years. Then, Revelation chapter 19, verse 2, the coming of the Lord of Revelation 19. And remember, this is, once again, you got to tie this in. It's the time of the gathering of the kings of the earth to the war. Ton polemos. The war. The war of Revelation chapter 16. The war of Revelation chapter 6. The war of Isaiah chapter 3. The last days, day of the Lord, when men could run to the mountains, hide in the caves, cry to the rocks, fall on us. Third fact from Revelation chapter 19. And I said I was going to describe the day of the Lord, the coming of the Lord, the Parousia, but I'm going to save that till next Monday, okay? I want you to notice that at this judgment of Babylon, let's begin with verse 5. Then a voice came from the throne saying, praise our God, all you his servants, and those who fear him, both small and great. And I heard as it were, the voice of a great multitude, as the sound of many waters, as the sound of mighty thundering, saying, Hallelujah, for the Lord, our Lord God omnipotent reigns. Look, folks, this is a direct citation, an echo of Revelation chapter 11, 15 and following. Oh, wait a minute. Revelation 11, 15 and following is the time of the sounding the seventh trumpet for the time of the resurrection. Oh, but wait. At the sounding the seventh trumpet, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Oh, and wait. It's the time of the judgment of the city where the Lord was crucified. Just like Revelation 19, verse 1 ties the time of the coming of the Lord for salvation to the judgment of Jerusalem. Oh, Luke 21, 28, when you see these things come to pass, then know that your redemption is nigh. Redemption, salvation, at the coming of the Lord and judgment of Israel in AD 70. Just like Revelation 19, verse 2, is the time of the fulfillment of the Song of Moses, which is about the fulfillment of the song at the coming of the Lord in Israel's last days, when God would avenge the martyrs. And Jesus said, all the blood of all the martyrs shed on the earth from righteous Abel unto Zacharias son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar, would be fulfilled in the first century generation. And now, Revelation chapter 11 is being cited right here in Revelation chapter 19. It's the time of salvation. It's the time of the kingdom. But that's not all. Verse 7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. So, the judgment of Babylon would be the time of the wedding. Well, let me ask you a question, folks. If you believe that Babylon was Rome, what did the destruction of Rome have to do with the marriage of Christ? Because you see, the destruction of Babylon is the destruction of the adulterous harlot wife. Not just some random harlot city. The unfaithful harlot wife. Hey, listen, folks. What city, what people did Jesus say or call a wicked and adulterous generation? What people, what city did Jesus call adulterous? And by the way, as Sebastian Smolars, a noted scholar, says in one of his works, in the Old Testament, the word harlot is associated with a wife who has broken the marriage covenant. There are a couple of different instances in which it's used in a non-covenantal way. But in the vast majority of those cases, of the cases where harlot is used in the Old Testament, the source of revelation, the word harlot is used of a wife, either a literal physical wife or a metaphorical wife. You know, like Israel was married to Yahweh, but committed adultery and was called an adulterous wife. So ask yourself this question. Since Revelation is drawing directly on the Old Testament and the Old Testament language and the Old Testament prophecies, and the use of the word harlot in the great preponderant number of cases refers to a wife who has been unfaithful, does that not suggest that this great harlot city is a city that was in a marriage covenant with Yahweh, but was about to be killed, destroyed for being an adulterous wife? No, it's not Rome. Rome was never in a marital relationship with Yahweh. And it's not the Roman Catholic Church, because the Roman Catholic Church was never in a marriage covenant with Yahweh. Now somebody says, well, she was an apostate and what have you. I understand that. But she still doesn't fit the bill. So the book of Revelation is about the destruction of a wife that has been unfaithful. Now, it says at the destruction of Babylon, at the coming of the Lord and the destruction of Babylon, the time of the wedding had come. Well, let's see. In Matthew chapter 22, a great king made a great wedding feast. A what? A wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his servants, who went out and said, all things are ready. Come to the feast. And those who had been invited began to mistreat them and to beat them. He sent out more servants. They did the same thing. Sent out more servants. Did the same thing. So finally, the master of the wedding feast sent out his armies and destroyed those wicked men the ones who had been invited to the wedding, and burnt their city. I like what Donald Hagner says in his comments in the Word Biblical Commentary on Matthew 22. He says, it is impossible to read these words and not see fulfillment in AD 70. Okay, so what takes place then? The master says to his servants, go out into the highways and the byways and bring in all of those who are there so that my wedding feast might be filled. There's not a 2,000-year gap. It's the same wedding feast. It's just that a certain class of people, a certain group of people who refused and rejected the invitation are now cast out. They're destroyed. I wonder who that was. And the wedding proceeds. Isn't it strange and isn't it sad that people want to insert a 2,000-year gap into that text? Sorry, it doesn't work. So what do we have in Revelation 19? We have three facts. Number one, the coming of the Lord and the judgment of Babylon would be the time of the coming of salvation, which is the second coming of Christ of Hebrews chapter 9, which Hebrews says was coming in a very, very little while. We have the time of the avenging of the martyrs in fulfillment of Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 43, and Jesus said all the blood of all the martyrs would be avenged in the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. And number three, we have the time of the wedding, which Jesus in Matthew chapter 22 said the time of the wedding would take place at the time of the fall of Jerusalem and destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. Folks, how much more evidence do we need to understand that the coming of the Lord in Revelation chapter 19 at the time of the war in vindication of the martyrs, in fulfillment of Isaiah 2 through 4, the last days, day of the Lord in the judgment of Jerusalem. This is powerful stuff. And we're not done. You have a fantastic weekend. Hey, don't forget, take advantage of the fantastic 3-book special. Go to my website, DonKPreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. Save yourself over $20. Okay? You have a fantastic weekend. See you on Monday.